Hello everyone. Welcome back to my series that celebrates snow. The first thing we will do in today's video is go back in time to February of this year when New York had a major blizzard. The day after the blizzard, I went to Morgan Park in Glen Cove to relish in the magical, beautiful, serene, majestic snowscape. Afterwards, we will return to my office to read and analyze It Sifts from Leaden Sieves, a beautiful snow-themed poem written by one of my favorite poets, Emily Dickinson. And finally, I will make an attempt to write my own snow-themed poem, which I will share with you. Without further ado, let's return to that magical post-blizzard day at Morgan Park. All right, I'm back in my office, ready to read and analyze Emily Dickinson's poem, It Sifts from Leaden Sieves. It sifts from leaden sieves, it powders all the wood, it fills with alabaster wool the wrinkles of the road. It makes an even face of mountain and of plain, unbroken forehead from the east unto the east again. It reaches to the fence, it wraps it rail by rail, till it is lost in fleeces, it deals celestial veil. To stump and stack and stem, a summer's empty room, acres of joints where harvests were recordless but for them. It ruffles wrists of posts as ankles of a queen, then stills its artisans like ghosts, denying they have been. What fascinates me the most about this poem is that Emily Dickinson manages to write an entire 5-stanza poem about snow without even once using the word snow. This is one of her signature styles. She does have more poems that are written like this. Essentially, they're poem riddles. So how do readers know that she's writing about snow if she never even uses the word snow? A close reading of this stanza reveals the answer to this question. It sifts from leaden sieves, it powders all the wood, it fills with alabaster wool the wrinkles of the road. By the way, in this poem, every time Dickinson uses the word it, she's referring to snow. In the first line, when she says it sifts from leaden sieves, The leaden sieves are heavy gray clouds. And when she says it sifts, she's saying the snow is sifting from these heavy gray clouds. So how do we know that leaden sieves are gray clouds? Because snow comes from clouds. And leaden means heavy. So if these clouds are leaden, they are heavy and are sifting down snow. In the second line, she's saying that it powders all the wood. So the snow is spreading white powder all over the trees. By wood, she means trees. In the third line, when she says it fills with alabaster wool, and then the fourth line, the wrinkles of the road. Alabaster is a white stone, and in this line, she's using a metaphor to compare snow to white wool. And then in the fourth line, when she says the wrinkles of the road, she's saying that this white wool, this snow, is covering up all the cracks in the streets. Let's take a closer look at the second stanza. It makes an even face of mountain and of plain, unbroken forehead from the east unto the east again. In this stanza, the snow is evening out the entire landscape by covering it, much like blizzards do, right? Once again, she doesn't use the word blizzard in this poem, but it's pretty clear from this description that this was not just a little, just a little snow. It was probably a blizzard. Dickinson cleverly personifies the landscape of this poem by referring to it as having a face and by comparing the horizon to a forehead. Now let's take a closer look at the third stanza. It reaches to the fence, it wraps it rail by rail, till it is lost in fleeces. It deals celestial veil. Here the snow is covering the fence until the fence has completely disappeared, and this covering is compared to fleeces. I think it's so interesting that Emily Dickinson uses the word fleeces to compare snow. When I think of a fleece, I think of something that's very warm and comforting. Obviously, snow is freezing. So the fact that she uses a word with positive connotation to describe snow shows me that she, like me, loved snow very much. In the final line, the snow is giving the entire world a celestial veil, which means a heavenly covering. Now, she spells veil differently. She spells it V-A-I-L. Back in the 1800s, when Dickinson wrote this poem, the word veil had a different spelling. The one that we know it as a covering to be V-E-I-L was spelled V-A-I-L. Now let's take a closer look at the fourth and fifth stanzas together. To stump and stack and stem, a summer's empty room, acres of joints where harvests were, recordless but for them. It ruffles wrists of posts as echoes of a queen, then stills its artisans like ghosts, denying they have been. In these lines, there's a clear personification of the landscape once again. The remnants of summer's harvest, stump, stack, and stem, are not only covered in snow, but are described as acres of human joints. The two lines that say it ruffles wrists of posts as ankles of a queen are very, very interesting and very, very dense. Dickinson is saying that the snow is covering the tops of fence posts and creating ruffles around those posts. The ruffles around the posts, she then compares to the ankles of a queen. So there's a lot of personification in these two lines of this snow-covered fence, as well as an embedded simile, because she's comparing these fence posts covered in snow to the dressed up ankles of a queen. The final two lines of the poem are as fascinating as they are difficult to decipher. First of all, you might notice that there's strangely an apostrophe in the word it's. Scandalous, I know.
Scandalous, I know.
So in the 1800s, the word it's, meaning the one to show possession, not to say it is, the word it's to show possession was sometimes spelled with an apostrophe, and that's the reason why there's an apostrophe there where there clearly shouldn't be. In this case, Emily Dickinson intended to show possession in the word its. So where it says its artisans, she means ITS, not IT apostrophe S artisans. Another curiosity about these lines is her usage of the word stills. In this case, stills is being used as a verb. I feel like we don't commonly hear that as a verb. We hear the word still like an adverb, like I am still waiting or I am still jumping, whatever it is. We hardly ever hear stills, at least I don't. So for me, it was a curiosity. Anyway, in this case, the word stills is being used as a verb. So I'm going to give you a little modern translation of these last two lines. Then the snow's artisans come to a stop, and like ghosts, they deny that they had ever existed. So who are the snow's artisans? The answer to that question lies in the answer to this question. What is it that created all the ruffles, right? What created the ruffles? What filled in all the cracks of the road? What covered the wood, the wind, and the clouds? It's not the snow. The snow fell, but the wind and the clouds are what formed the snow, or from where they came, and the wind is what shapes the snow around the landscape. These artisans, the wind and the clouds, they disappear by the end of the poem, and like ghosts, there is no trace of them ever having been there. I specifically chose this poem by Emily Dickinson to pair with my afternoon at Morgan Park, because when I visited Morgan Park after the blizzard, it had really, really, really been transformed in a major way. I mean, I've been to Morgan Park dozens of times, but mostly in the spring and mostly in the summer, and I've really just never gone there after a blizzard, and I was really in awe of the transformation of the landscape, and that's what I'm going to try to convey in my poem now. So wish me luck. I'm going to pause the video and I will be back after I finish my poem. All right, I finished my poem. It took a really unexpected turn. Before I left, I told you that I was going to write about the transformation of the landscape, and I did no such thing. I mentioned it, of course, but I focused more on waiting for a blizzard, because if you know anything about me, which some of you may, you know that I live for blizzards. I wait for them and I live for them and I love them so much. I just not even tell you how much there's just not enough words. There really aren't. I just love blizzards. I wait. So I wrote about the waiting. And there is a shift somewhere in the middle, and I speak to the blizzard. Come to this. Oh my God. All right, here it is. Blizzard at Morgan Park. Even while wishing I could breathe life into the starry night horse at Manhasset's Miracle Mile, even while watching the twittering of Titania and Oberon in Vanderbilt's Spanish courtyard, even while wandering the Atlantic boardwalk searching for an affogato or limoncello sorbet, even while whispering my secrets to the oranges in the last grove of the San Fernando Valley, even while weaving through the canyons of Las Virgenes en route to Malibu's Bocadillo Master, even while walking among the ruins of ancient Athenian art at Pacific Palisades Getty Villa, I've been awaiting your alchemy, blizzard at Morgan Park. Teach me to conjure your clemency. Teach me to summon your serenity. I'm a good student. I'll be a good student. I'll be good. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and most of all, I hope that it inspired you to write your own snow-themed poem. If so, please share it with me in the comments. I'd love to read it. See you next time.